Yeah, so welcome everybody on the other side of the screen. We are so excited to be with you. Of course, it's been a while since I came live on this page, so I hope I'll be forgiven, but at least I'm coming with a gift for you. I'm coming with some education and some lively conversation around the effects of childhood trauma on marriage and parenting. And this is such a big topic. As a Christian mentor, and especially for moms, I have seen so many marriages being affected, and sometimes it's just because of that inner work that has never been done. And what happens is, because I mentor moms, the mother now heals herself, starts going in a growth direction, but the husband is left behind. And sometimes it's just because of upbringing, it's just because of some traumatic events, words that are wrong that were said, or just events that happened in somebody's life that went unchecked. And we are saying we are taking back our marriages, we are taking back our parenting, so that we give back to society children who are raised by two completely whole individuals. So I'm going to tell you about my guests later, but even as we come in, let me check that we are live. I'm grateful to have ladies who have joined us here. The advantage for you is that you can be able to write questions directly to Fatma, so that she addresses them even as she's talking. So gift for you. We used to have Chasing Courage around 11, but then I realized there are moms who are already working in offices who sometimes miss out on valuable conversations. So that's why we moved this to around lunchtime hours, so that you also get to go back to work after our conversation. So I can see we are live. All those who will come in now and later, please say hello. If you're watching the replay, please just hashtag replay. So God has been good. He is good all the time. And as always, allow me to just share my screen and you let me know that you can see it well. And so, as I said before, it's Chasing Courage, and today we are talking about the effects of childhood trauma on marriage and parenting. And we have a very, very special guest, my friend Fatma. I'll tell you about her later. And yeah, we've been on such a growth journey with Fatma. And to be honest, we know what it means to chase courage. We would not be here were it not for God, and were it not for surrendering ourselves to whatever path He has for our life. I can promise you that. So who am I now? The way I'm just bringing myself and just talking. My name is Wairimo, the Audacity Mentor. That's why the page is called the Audacity Mentor. And I'm a wife. This month we celebrated 17 years, and I'm a mom of 3. I have our firstborn is a candidate next week. Yeah, and we are going to come here actually on Friday, I'm thinking, so that we just pray for all the candidates. So if you have a candidate, I'll put a post where we can just drop their names and then spend time just dedicating them in prayer. I am a Christian-based mom mindset and life mentor, because I help moms just work on their mindset, beat all those limiting belief stories in the mind that have convinced you as a mother that you cannot amount to anything. I help you understand what God has called you to do, who you are, and why God has chosen you for the specific work He has done. And then by knowing yourself, by knowing your work, then you can be able to design the life that you really desire for yourself. I am an encourager. I love encouraging moms. I love encouraging people. It's my spiritual gift. I'm the founder and lead mentor at the Audacious Coaching and Mentoring Services and the Audacious Mom School, which is an online school, and I'll talk about it shortly. I'm also an author. My book is ready. And so what I want you to do is look out for, I am having a pre-launch sale in March. So look out for the details about where to make the payments and how we can organize for you to get this book. My book is called Wired Weird, because I'm all about helping you celebrate your uniqueness and why did God choose you to come to earth? What is it about your story and your uniqueness that God wants to use? So my book is about just saying, what's your odd? Odd is weird, is the same as weird. What's that wiring that's different about you that God has chosen to use, including your story? So by reading my book and reading my personal journey of how I got to this place, I get to share with you how I was able to identify God's cues, I was able to identify God's clues, and I was able to identify God's calling in my story. So I help you also as you're reading the book to also try and discover, by the way, what has God been doing in my life and why am I here? What is it about my childhood that has led me here? There is nothing that happens by mistake, but don't stay stuck.
Good afternoon, ladies. I'm sorry, I think my remote has gone off. Lately, we've been experiencing some, power outage without notice, but maybe I can just pick it up from where she has left, and then I'm sure she will be joining us in a few. So she had already introduced me, but maybe just to take you deeper into it. So my name is Fatma Wambugo. I am a school owner and a farmer, an adventure enthusiast, and an emotional wellness coach with a background in counseling psychology, special attention to child therapy. I am a child ambassador, parenting with a vision to raise functional adults or other generations and making this world a better place. So today we are here to talk about childhood trauma, and how it affects our marriage and how it affects our parenting. Like trees in a forest, humans share a root system, and our life stability and general well-being as adults is defined by experiences in our growing up years, since all the nourishment came from the roots. So we all came from somewhere. We did not come from, no man's land, but we came from a root system, and that root system is our family. Before I get into that conversation, let me just first of all explain what emotions are. And so emotions make life what it is. They give meaning to events. All our emotions needed attention and validation. At some point in our lives when we were growing up, actually since inception. Therefore, the pattern of emotions we experience were highly influenced by experiences in our growing up years. So at this point, I would like to ask, how many of us felt validated? Feel our emotions were validated when we were growing up. Our emotions were received well. They were taken care of. They were listened to 100%. I don't know how many can attest to that. But anyway, let's think about the opposite. The opposite is, how many of us feel our emotions were neglected? The many times that you could cry, the many times that you could go to your parents and tell them, I am going through this, I am feeling this. How many of you can attest and say, my emotions were validated? Anyway, right now, we can clearly say that at some point, like for me, I know to an extent, my feelings didn't matter. Of course, I am a victim of emotional neglect when I was a child. And unfortunately or fortunately, imagine our parents were not doing this to us with, they didn't actually know what they were doing. For them, they were just raising us up in the same way that they were raised up. So it is not that they were not, it's not that they were being neglectful or anything, but they didn't actually know what was happening. They actually didn't know what was happening. So let me just talk about childhood. What is actually childhood? So childhood is the period of human lifespan between infancy and adolescence. And adolescence, I mean from the age of about 10 to 21 years. So we normally have the early adolescence, we have the middle adolescence, and we have the late adolescence at the age of 18 to 21. So you can imagine, if this is between the 0 to 21 years, so many things happened in between that in our lives. We went through so many experiences. We were actually, how we behave at times was actually affected by the people who are taking care of us, and even our society, the community that we were living in. There was a lot of influence from them. So what are these characteristics of a child? Who is this child? A child is a very interesting and exciting person. Yeah. And their natural life spark pushes him to explore in an optimistic manner. For them, they are always ready to take up anything that you throw to them. They are very innocent and teachable. That is one thing I love the most, and that is why I love being in a school and just teaching these little people, because they're very docile. They're needy by nature, not by choice. Remember, it's a child. So they are just there. They're waiting for us to just, take care of them and just provide what they need. And you can imagine at times when a child comes to you and tells you, teacher said, or maybe, from nowhere, and say, Mommy, I need this. what kind of an answer, what kind of a response do we give them? Because by the time they're coming to you and telling you, I need, imagine it's something they really need it in their heart. But there we are as parents. What do we do to them? Just let's reflect on that. So they see humor in all sorts of things, whether real, whether imagined, or of their own creation, whatever it is. For them, at times you can attest, when a child does something wrong, they come to you smiling and they're thinking, that is funny. And for sure, for you as an adult, you're looking at them and saying, are you serious? And you're smiling, and you dare smile with what you have done. Anyway, they are very, very, they have humor in all sorts of ways. So they have the ability to bounce back from distress. They are so resilient. Children are so resilient. And you can attest even to the COVID times, when we had a lockdown, children coming back to school, doing their stuff back. I mean, for them, they were ready for it. Maybe some of them were being affected because of what was going on in their homes, but naturally a child is very resilient. You can even tell, when you beat a child, maybe you punish them, they just come back and they continue with life. They pick it up from where they left it and they're okay, They have a natural sense of freedom evident in play. Yeah, so for them, they are always ready to just pick it up. Anytime you tickle them, every time that you throw a ball, you do anything, they have that free play. They are just ready. They have that freedom. They're connected and unified within having the sense of wholeness, of I amness. They're unified from inside. They believe in themselves. They believe that I am. It's not like for us adults. We have gone so many hurts. We have gone through so many things in life that at times we are displaced totally. We don't even know who we are. So at some point, we tend to disconnect from the original person that God created. And we just now flow with what the world gives us. And of course, they are very, very loving. They are very loving, but first, they must be loved so that they can love others, So a child loves to love by being loved, and the person we are in God's eyes. So there is no way we can expect a child to love, even as we grow up, because basically what happens is we still have a child inside of us. That small little Fatma, it still lives inside of me. And if that little Fatma did not know what love was, then how am I going to share that love? How am I going to express that love to people? Yeah. But you can imagine if that little Fatma, is felt loved in everything. What I will pour out is love. Because even the Bible tells us, you give what is inside of you. You cannot give what you do not have. So you must have love first so that you can be able to share it out. And that is what the child has. So what happens in childhood? What exactly happens in childhood? Our children are very dependent of the caretakers, be it the mother, be it the teacher, be it the community members. They are very dependent on caretakers, and the caretakers are us adults. So experiences with the caretakers, actually, they can either build trust or they can break the trust. It gives actually a picture of how adulthood should be based on what they have experienced. So you can imagine our children, the way they are today, the way we actually are treating them, the experiences we are giving them back home, or rather, maybe even if you have, one of us has adult children, let's just reflect upon how was it when they were growing up, because what I believe, healing can take place at any stage of life. And according to the Erik Erikson, who was a psychosocial lifespan development, he talked about the different stages of development. And he said in each and every stage, that is between birth, again, I will look at the between birth to 21 years, each and every stage required a child to have some needs met. Yeah, and if these needs were not met, then it brought in crises. So you can imagine, between birth to 18 months, a child was required to develop trust from the caretakers, because that was the innate sense of how safe they feel in the world. You are the person who is showing this child what safety is all about and how they can trust people even as they are growing up. So if that was not, that need was not met when they were young, basically do not know what is happening in them, but it is just stored in their subconscious. It is ukonyuma. We don't even get to know as parents, because once a child is crying there, once a child makes a funny sound, they are communicating to us. But if we are not able to respond to that call of a child, so basically, clearly, it means we are neglecting that child's emotional needs. Now, the second stage was 18 months to 3 years. Again, at this particular stage, there is what the child was meant to acquire before they move on to the next stage. So actually, each and every developmental stage build up on another one and another. So if a child was not able to get trust at the beginning, so they get into the next stage in a crisis. So by the time they're 21 years, they have actually gone through like 6 stages, and they're carrying this baggage. They're carrying this baggage. And eventually, as they become adults, they have really learned how to cope with the situation. They have developed some coping mechanisms, and they just put everything, they repress their emotions, they repress their anger, they repress their frustrations. And then what happens when they grow up? What happens when they grow up? Welcome, Wairimo. I can see you've been able to connect back.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I've actually started off. I don't know whether you had something else to add before I continue.
No, please keep going.
So
please keep going.
I keep going. All right. So by the time the children are getting to the adolescence stage, and that is now the very critical stage, whereby now they get to understand who they are. So you can imagine that is at the age of about 13 years, they go building up on their identity, 13, 14, 15, 16. By the time they're 21 years, they've already established who they are and who are the people who matter in their lives. And again, they have developed on the personality that they are going to be. They know this is how I'm supposed to treat people because this is what I learned. Remember all these things they learned from the experiences that they had. So ideally, now their personality has been formed. Now this child, or rather now this young adult, moves on to now getting into relationships. What happens to these adults? What kind of an adult are we looking at? So at that point, let me get now into the emotional neglect that now we are going to talk about today. So this is a very invisible and a very subtle and unmemorable experience. And the sad reality is that growing up in an environment where your feelings were not validated and ignored and they were discounted has had profound effect on how we feel in our adult life and the choices we make and the perceptions of ourselves. As I said earlier, our parents had the best intention for us. So we are not here to shame them. We are not here to talk ill about them. No, we love them. You know, they did their best because that is how they knew the best way to raise us. But again, the only challenge is that they were not able, they actually failed to provide a very crucial ingredient to their growing child. And this growing child is from the age of about 0 years to the 21 years. And since our emotions are the most deeply personal biological part of who we are, we interpreted this message unconsciously as, you do not matter. You do not matter, yeah? So we're just going to look at the limitations briefly, and then I'm just going to give an example, actually, the analogy of the what is this called? The pressure cooker. I'm actually using the pressure cooker analogy. So this child has been, let's assume when you put the pressure cooker on the fire, so it goes heating pole pole two, yeah? And then eventually what happens? The pressure comes out, and not in a very good way. If you're not careful, or maybe if you had not tightened up the lid, it can actually cause so many issues. So basically, that is the whole idea about the emotional neglect. The child suppresses emotions, they suppress their anger, they suppress their disappointment, they suppress their abandonment, because at times we also go through that. And then in their adult life, now here they are, they have met someone, and now maybe even making friendships in college becomes a big issue. You know, even in the workplace, it becomes a problem because this person is just waiting for a trigger. We are just waiting for a trigger. Somebody maybe to say something that is going to touch Remember, you still have that little child inside of you, that bit of maybe you don't care. I mean, they maybe whatever that you're doing is not right, or maybe they're not validating what you are doing. And you've gone through that in your childhood. What happens? Yeah, you start developing conflicts with people. People are like, me, I don't understand. Imagine I just went to ask Fatma something very small, and the way she talked to me, you know, I don't understand what's wrong with her because I didn't even say anything wrong. But you can imagine, because of that numbed pain, the heart, you know, those feelings of emptiness, those feelings of shame, those feelings of guilt that we actually developed even as we are growing up. Yeah, that emotional upheaval in ourselves, that is hypersensitivity in us because of what we went through, now actually manifests itself, it resurfaces. So there is nothing that can hide for long. It will eventually come out. So I will quote Joel Austin. He said, hurting people hurt others as a result of their own pain. At times you might not understand where somebody is coming from, but there is some pain that is just in there, unconscious. They don't really know what is happening. They went through so much, but they are not able to actually pinpoint and say, this is what I went through when I was growing up. And unfortunately, now that causes a lot of havoc. It causes a lot of conflicts with people that we are with our spouses, with our children, yeah, with everybody that we meet. You know, you're just looking for a place to just release that pressure. Yeah, so you're just waiting for somebody to do something very small to you, so that now you can actually now remove that anger. You're already waiting. So, and if you look at our country right now, I look at the way politics are being done. The best way for people to now acquire voters is by shaming. You know, why are we shaming one another? Why don't we just go out there with our own way of campaigning? Why don't we just say, I'm going to do this and this for you? Why do you have to quote another person and what they're doing wrong? Because basically, clearly that shows what some of the issues that people are carrying, the baggages that people are carrying in their lives, and they are taking them out on others. So I don't know why, Remo, if you need to add on something, or I continue.
Yeah, I think just keep going because you're flowing well.
All right, Sawa. Thank you for that. So today I'm going to look at Hebrews 10:15 before we continue, because I hold that verse very close to my heart. It says, see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Imagine, even God knows that all these things that we have gone through, yeah, in our childhood, it's a root. And I said, we have a root system. We have a root system where we got all the nourishment from. So there is this bitter root inside of us. There is this bitter root inside of us, and at times we don't know what it is all about. But it is our responsibility to get deep down and try to figure out what exactly happened to me. That was my journey many years ago. I could not really understand what was happening to me. I was going through some emotional upheaval, not even with people, within myself. I've always been this very peaceful person. And I know even at times parents say, yeah, my child is nice. They are very quiet. You know, even when the small brother comes and does this to them, they cannot talk. It's not a good thing. Because what is that? We are not raised up to be controlled by others. God has given us space. Each one of us deserve their own space, and you can put your foot down and say no. So there I was. Anyway, I was doing well. I wouldn't complain, and I have a very supportive husband, very supportive mother, very supportive brother. I mean, everybody is just awesome around me. But there's just one or two, three things that did not go very well with me in my childhood that caused me to start having feelings of emptiness inside me, that feeling of void. It's like at all times I was at a crossroad. I was not satisfied with what I was getting. I am in the service industry, and every time I would just see the negativity of everything. I would look at my phone, and see a parent calling, and I'm thinking, now what is it that I have done? You know, I'm always thinking about the negative, or maybe what happened to the child, instead of being very positive and just picking up the phone, you know, very happily and just, you know, answering it. But all the time I was always on high alert. I'm like, well, maybe I've done something wrong. Any phone call that I receive, not only from my parents, but basically maybe from the drivers and everybody else. It was not a very good place to be. And I decided, Fatma, enough is enough. And of course, I was really looking forward to validation from outside. For me, I never saw the good things that I was doing. I was like, Apana, there is something. I have not heard it from anybody. I need to hear it from people that I have done well for me to believe in myself. So my self-esteem was also down. Yeah. So I said, no, I have to work on myself. And my journey began. And when it began, that is when I decided to enroll with to do child therapy. At that point, I didn't even know that I was going for myself. I was going to help the children, because I said to myself, I wouldn't want the children that I am handling right now, that God has entrusted to me, to go through what I am going through. So I want children who actually know themselves, who understand themselves. So I went through the course, and actually it was some sort of a therapy for me, because I ended up getting to know so much about myself that I needed to work on even before I dealt with the children. It was very successful. And by the time I was leaving that space, I was like, you know what, I need to learn more and more about the emotional neglect. So here I am today to bring some of those insights to you, so that even as we parent our children, we will be very intentional about how we are raising them, so that these wounds, they do not trickle down to our next generations. So at this point, I will go straight down onto the effects of childhood emotional trauma, yeah, on marriage, yeah. So number one, in marriage, we really struggle with, again, trust issues with our spouses. We are always on high alert. We are always thinking, I need to check on his phone. I need to check on his pockets. I need to find out where he's at, just in case he gets home late. As in, you're always there. You cannot trust this person. Even if they tell you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you still feel, Apana, I need to take control of this issue, so that I don't want to be left komata. I don't want to be abandoned along the way. So at times we struggle with the trust issues in our marriage, and you're always busy there. And I can imagine how much overwhelming it can be, emotionally, when you're busy looking forward to check, what your husband has been doing. You can't even concentrate. So you cannot even be productive, because you are in doubt. The second thing is about you're very sensitive. Anytime that maybe your spouse tells you something small, it triggers you. You go back to that campaign, that one that you got in your childhood, and you're not aware. You go back to it, and at times you can even overreact. You actually overreact, and your husband is asking, Haya, what happened? I just said something that I never thought would hurt you, but you blow it out of proportion. And then there is this, others also go through the codependence. Codependence is more of losing your identity, being out of touch with your own feelings and inability to say no, So when you're there, you don't know who I am. You've been absorbed. Now you've become a Mrs. Mwangi, and that's it. That Fatma that you used to be is no longer there. You are consumed, by this person who has come into your life. Instead of coming in and being able to balance yourself very well, you get consumed. And at the same time, with it, you're being careful. You do not want to get so much involved with him. And at the same time, you still want to, it's a very tricky scenario, and it can be very devastating if you're not aware of where you are. So you also get to act out in so many ways. Acting out emotions. Emotions are the fuel of, that moves us to defend ourselves. So something small, that outburst, you are there, you are now angry, you don't know what to do. And then after some time, you sit back and ask yourself, honestly, was that worth it? Was it worth it for me to react the way I reacted? So basically, you can see, with the effects on marriage, it's really affecting even the way we accommodate people in our homes. At times, we let our family members just come in, and maybe in-laws, they come in and decide, now I'm going to be here and I will do what I want. Why is that? It's because of that bit of losing yourself. You cannot say no. You have no boundaries to your house. So your relatives come in, they end up hurting you, and you're just there quiet. because you saw it happening when you are being raised by your parents. They could say nasty things to you. Your mom could hit you and you could not say anything. You could not even ask, why, mommy, why did you have to hit me? You could not express your feelings. You know, nobody was there to listen to you. So you carry that into your marriage, and it gives you a lot of trouble with your with the people that you're living with. So those are some of the issues that we go through in case there's any question or Irimo, so that we can continue.
I think so far it's just comments of people saying that the discussion is good. There's one where a lady has said she grew up in an environment where I was neglected in every possible way. So also for her to, I don't know how you can help her, because she recognizes that. So maybe just to help, because there's a recognition. Where do you go forward? You're already starting to give your own story of feeling neglected. Because not everybody will go for child therapy. What should they do? If you can tackle that maybe for now.
Now, it's quite unfortunate because with the therapy, it's by the time you're getting to really know the root cause of everything, you must be very intentional about it. But I'm so proud of her because she can already identify that she was neglected. Now she has some more work to do. She really needs to go back to her early years and get to find out at what point, at what age did this neglect start from, and how does it feel for her right now? You know, she needs to identify the feelings that she can actually put to that neglect. How did she feel? You know, or rather right now, how does she feel when she thinks about that neglect? She needs to come up with the words, and then from there, get to understand at what age. Because as I said, there are different developmental stages. So we need to understand at what age exactly, so that now the healing can start from there. But I'm so proud of her that she has identified that neglect. Yeah.
So because not everybody knows those stages, I don't know if you have them offhand, but the follow-up question to that is, what are some of the ways one can move past hurts to feel whole? So maybe you can already just, because what's that first bold, what's the chasing courage step that she needs to take? Because, you know, it's not everything that is available to everyone. There are those who, when you say go to counseling, they'll go immediately. But what is the smallest bold chasing courage step that this lady can take, and others like her?
I think number one is just to accept that it happened. Yeah. And it will be very normal for one to be angry. Go through the pain. You have to go through the process so that you can heal. Yeah. So accept that this happened to me. But again, the best part is that there is hope. You know, there's healing. Healing can take place, but it all begins with acceptance, and then now getting ready to go dig deeper into your past. Yeah, and find out. And even at times, you might also need to go to your relatives and just ask them, what exactly happened to me at this age? Because at times you can, as I've said, it's unmemorable. You don't remember. And then it was very subtle in such a way that even people could not recognize it, because it was not more of a physical abuse. It was emotional. Emotional, it is not visible. Yeah. So the first thing is that you accept this is what happened to you, own the pain, and now you decide, I'm going now to dig deeper. I'm going to open that can of worms and see what is it exactly that happened to me, without any bitterness for your parents, because also for them, they didn't know. They raised you the same way they were raised. Remember, this is a ripple effect. This is a domino effect. Our parents raised that in such a way that they didn't even understand. It's how they saw their parents raising them. Like today, I hear some of my parents saying, Mimi natandika. Mimi, I don't want nonsense. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, it's not bad, because even the Bible says, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. But can you do it with love? Yeah, and you don't have to keep on doing it, because where we are right now, there is a lot of things have changed a lot. The generation that we're raising right now, it's not us. They know, they talk about their parents. My mom is so mean. My dad is so mean. You know, anytime that I ask for something, they always say they don't have money. then what kind of mentality are you developing in your children? It's a poverty mentality. So when they grow up, they are going to get into their families with the same thing. Their children will be asking for stuff and they're like, I don't have money. So they have already, and they kind of really, they don't give themselves what they need because they grew up knowing pesa hakuna. So even the little that they have to be stingy actually. We are raising stingy people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, allow me to first recognize some of the ladies in the panel. One has said, thank you, Fatma. This is very informative and educative. Another lady has said, very informative session so far. Questions from Facebook, all right? So we have one where you're being as Fatma, I would like to ask, do you think that how we saw our parents, I think you've tackled a bit, but let me read as is, how we saw our parents relate could also be affecting, how they also responded to their children, how the trauma was able to come up, especially if it was characterized by violence. How do we in our marriages as well and parenting kind of emulate that? Maybe you can tackle that before I ask you the next one.
Yeah, so as I have said, all these things happened and they were stored in the unconscious mind. Yeah. So right now we are getting into marriage and maybe so many things are happening in your marriage. Maybe you're having a bit of conflicts in your marriage and, those are triggers now for you to react. So it all depends on, you're aware, and I'm glad you're able to pinpoint some of the things that maybe went on when you were being, the experiences that you had when you're growing up. So it's for you to be very alert. And no, I don't want to reach to that point. I used to see my mom and my dad fight. I don't want to get to that point. So you really need to control yourself. But even as you're controlling yourself, you cannot control for long. You need to go through the healing process. Because clearly, your parents were the role model. They are actually the ones who displayed what love is, yeah, and what relationship is between your dad and your mom. So whatever that you saw, it is very easy. It is very easy. Actually, you're in a very slippery position for you to just replicate what you saw in your childhood, in your marriage. Yeah. I don't know whether I've answered her question.
So now that we know, there are those triggers, and I know, when my dad talked like this, my mom did this, and then we do the exact same thing. So where do we say this has to end? And as women, maybe we want, our marriages to work and we'll go the extra mile, but how do we communicate with the spouse that, some of these I've learned are just triggers. This is how I was brought up. So maybe that's why I'm reacting. How do you press restart in our marriages and parenting, because we've identified that some is caused by, how we were brought up?
All right. It all begins with yourself. Yeah. You have identified and you are accepting the flaws. You own the flaws, those of, yes, this is what happened and this is what at times I feel like doing. Now, you have to display that calmness. Yeah. You have to work on yourself before you even go to your spouse. Yeah. So that even by the time you're going to your spouse, you never know. And actually it is said that we attract the same people, some sort of people who have gone through the same issues that we have gone through, we somehow attract them. Yeah. So you can, maybe your spouse, even for them, they have some issues, with some of the experiences that they had. You have to be very careful. You have to be very sensitive about them. And this conversation has to be done in a very sober manner, if possible, even when you're laughing, so that now they can go understanding you. And then for you, as you are going through the healing process, your spouse can see the change in you, and they'll be able to acknowledge, by the way, whatever that you are telling me, it makes a lot of sense. Now they'll start looking at their background, and they'll be able also to identify, yeah? Or maybe even for me as a lady, I can tell my spouse, hey, no, Naki, even you're home, you see your mom, or, just mention something, and then you can have a very sober conversation in regards to that. Or even the way our children behave in the house. Some of them say, they have taken up the grandfather's anger. Hey, who said that? You have to refuse. You have to say no to that, because you need to cut that cord. You need to change things, and the change begins with you. You have to take it upon you. You change, and then now the other people can able to see what that change, the benefits of that change, and then they'll be now willing to understand themselves better. If it's your spouse, they'll get to understand themselves better. So be the cycle breaker. That is what I can say. It all begins with you.
Yeah. I like that, cycle breaker. That's such a nice word for us to take away. There's a lady who is saying, what about talking to those who have caused you the hurt? Is that something that you'd recommend immediate, or do they work on themselves first, so that then even as they approach, they're not doing the pointing finger, they are saying, this is how I felt when you did X? I mean, would you recommend for somebody to go directly to the person they feel they hurt them? Because sometimes, like she's suggesting, it could have just been a misunderstanding, you know.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but I think it is very important. That is part of healing. But by the time you're going to talk to this person, have you forgiven these people? Have you already accepted and said, okay, it's all right, it happened. That for me is something in the past, and I will not carry on, but I still need to have a very sober conversation with this person and let them know that whatever that they did was not right. So you can go, you can talk to them, but it depends. What state of mind are you in? You know, are you okay? As in, will you go there and have a very sober? It's not that confrontation. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Rose is saying very important information from the coaches. In your journey, if you don't mind us poking at your life since you opened the window,
yes.
Did you notice a difference in your marriage and parenting before you went through this journey and after you went through the journey of healing?
Well, before, oh my goodness, I was not a nice person. And of course, we put on this facade, you know, we are smiling, we are all loving. And, you know, people might not see behind the scene. Actually, it's said that, you know, that tip of the iceberg, we only see that bit of it. But the baggages that are deep down, they are heavy. So I wouldn't say I was a mean person. I was a mean mother to my children or a mean wife to my husband. But of course, I was never content. I was almost bordering a narcissist, and it was not a very good thing, because actually my husband, he could do things for me, and you know, he kept on saying, Aki Fatma, so just say thank you. Yeah, but that's a word that I never had from my family. I never had it when I was growing up. I was never told thank you when I was growing up. So why should I tell you thank you? It was really hard. When I was growing up again, I never had my parents telling each other, I love you, you know? I mean, for me, it was something very, it was a very heavy word for me. But right now, trust me, I share the word love with anyone, not even just my spouse, but anybody that I come across with, and I feel my heart is at peace with them. I'm just loving. I've learned how to love people. But before that word love, oh my, it was a huge one. The issue of parenting as well, wow, my firstborn daughter went through it all. You know, that anger, that bitterness inside of you. Something small happens, it triggers you. And if she's nearby, I would either hit her, I would either pinch her, or maybe she does something that is annoying. Man, I would really treat her badly. And I really had to go and apologize to her and tell her, I am sorry. I didn't know what I was going through. And even right now, I have really inspired her to be talking to the other students in her school. So she's more of a peer counselor in her school. So things, they have a ripple effect, yeah, on how we treat others, you know, mostly the people who are nearby, because they will do something and you're just there. Imagine after you don't recognize it, and they're asking, Aki, surely, how could you? And you feel nothing, you know, you're numb, because already you're empty. What do you have to offer yourself? Yeah. So it was not a nice one. It was not a nice one. Yeah. But right now I can say I'm still in that journey. I'm still in the healing process. It's not something that happens overnight, but with time, I believe, because what is happening right now, I am very much aware. When a trigger hits, I'm like, okay, Fatma, please don't. Calm down. I go back to myself and say, I'm not going to do what I had thought of doing. You know, I really have to take those irrational thoughts and just put them back and say no to them. Yeah.
You know, sometimes we say it's important for moms to invest in personal growth, but you're kind of like the face now showing there was a before and an after, but it starts with intention. I think somebody on Facebook mentioned the importance of intention.
Very
it
true.
has to start there. It has to be like you're saying, you recognize I'm about to be Fatma 1.0, and
Exactly.
so I need to stop. So there's a question
Yes.
about in the chat about how can we break those cycles. I know it sounds repetitive, but I hope it's okay for you to just to tell us that change is possible. If we want marriages that work, it's the baggage that we have brought from our childhood, and then we keep blaming each other instead of dealing with the root of the issue. So especially, allow me to ask, because I think you've mentioned individual. When you're coupling, when you're raising children, how is there a way to do it together, or you still suggest the individualized growth first?
Well, you're, as a couple, sorry, just come again with that question.
I was asking the breaking of cycle, is it something you do together, or do you recommend people to do it separately and then come back together to now say going forward what they can do?
I think it's, we all have our dark secrets. Yeah, there's some things that you don't want your husband to know, maybe what you went through. People have gone through stuff, because I think I've seen quite a number of ladies, you know, and they're like, you know, this thing is really holding me back. This thing is really affecting me. At times I look at him and I'm thinking, no, you know, because actually one of the effects again of childhood trauma in marriage is intimacy dysfunctions. Yeah. So it's always best for you, work on yourself. You can go cry, be vulnerable, do what you need to do. Yeah, nobody's watching you, nobody's there to judge you. Because, you know, this guy or maybe the lady might one day tell you, and then you are crying in that session, you know, please do it alone. Go through the healing process alone. And then now portray those positive behaviors to maybe your spouse. And after that, you can ask them, would you like to go through the process? Or even now for you, now that you have gotten to know how to go about dealing the triggers and all that, you can even help your spouse. Actually, you can, yeah, by correcting him in a nice way, yeah. But as maybe you can do it together in a group. If you don't know each other, you can just decide, all right, we are getting into this session. You don't know each other, nobody will be there to judge you, nobody knows you, so that way it can work.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, what did I want to ask about the still the breaking cycles? Our generation, we older mothers, we grew up where you keep it in, you keep it in, you don't go louding, I'm hurt, you know, the crying happens in the bathroom or wherever, or when we meet in chamas, we'll complain and everything. I find the younger wives now, the younger mothers, say it, there, you know, like the thought and just say it.
Exactly.
I know for us, it's because we observed our mothers, our grandmothers, just keeping quiet. And then when the spouses are away, that's when you hear, kumbe, you guys get hurt. You are not the only one who is seeing there's a problem. I don't know whether there's any that is good, the keeping quiet or that one of spewing immediately the way you're feeling. Is there any advice for both, I think, generations, those who keep it to themselves and vent outside, and those who vent there? Yeah.
All right. Venting it out is good, as long as you're not acting out. You have to be very careful about it. Just make sure, even as you're saying it there, you are saying it in a very nice way. It's more of being assertive. You're saying, this was not right. I didn't like what you did to me. And please, maybe next time, see how best you can approach it. That's okay, but do it in a nice way. Yeah. Now, for us, some of us, you know, we actually repressed a lot of those emotions, a lot of those issues. And you can see maybe how we are raising our children right now. Yeah. And I know even some of the newbies, you know, some of them are still keeping quiet. They're still taking in a lot, you know. and you're wondering, why are you not just able to walk out of that marriage? If this person is doing this to you, and it's not the first or the second time, at times we're even abused physically and we're just there. Why are we doing that? Again, it is because of fear of being left alone, because they went through that in childhood, that abandonment, and now they do not want, they will do anything that it takes for them to stay in that marriage, and yet they are being abused, which is not a very good place to be. Yeah.
So are there safe places now that you're in the industry where then this mom who maybe feels unsafe in the house, is there a place where she can go and just explain? Because like you're saying, because she, as a child, you're told, keep quiet, you're here to be seen and not heard. Yeah. So she picks that up, becomes the adult who, no matter how bad things are, her position is to be seen, not heard.
Exactly.
Yeah. How can we then stop this so that our daughters, our sons have different marriages and different parenting styles? What can she do? What's the immediate help? How can she be helped? Because it's not everybody like you or me who has a friend who they can just go and talk this over. There's somebody who has no one.
That's true.
Where can they go?
I am here to help such people. I will actually take them through the enlightenment journey, because what I believe is that we are all wonderful and nobody should ever put us down. Yeah, it's a journey, and I can take them through the enlightenment journey of identifying the pain from each developmental stage, research on their childhood events and attitudes that influence their developmental stage at each stage of growing up. And then I will also help them to go back, regress, and experience your feelings, and the sensations of that time. You have to go back to the root of the pain. And I think for me, I am very ready to help people, because I really want to be a rainbow in somebody's cloud. I know how it can be. And for me, what I can thank God for is my spouse. He was a very patient with me. I remember, my story. He was very patient with me, and he couldn't understand, now what is it? You wanted this, we have done it for you, and there you are again. You've gone back to square zero. I really didn't know what I was going through until I decided enough is enough. So what I would urge the ladies is just to decide, this is the time, let me seek help. And there is nothing wrong about it. It is always good to cry. It is always good to be vulnerable, because even the Bible has said, be like the little children, Yeah. So I am here to help them, Wairimu.
Yeah, and I know you're going to share your contacts, because it's very important that we know we have one person who is cheering for our healing. I think it's so important. Yeah, like you said, we've been, all of us, through journeys of just, there's good fights and then there's unnecessary fights, So learning to also know when is it that, your voice needs to be the loudest, and when do you need to be loud on your knees. God will fight some battles for you. There are some battles which we should not waste. Now, we've talked a lot about the women. Now, our husbands, and I don't know, ours were, maybe the older ones were raised a little bit, but the two younger ones are rather spoiled. So they are coming into a marriage with a childlike mindset, finding a lady who wants to grow and want to push him, but those are the things that are bringing conflict. So is there childhood trauma? I don't know whether the word trauma fits, where somebody is still at, their mentality is still for a young person, even if they are in a marriage situation where they are older, but their here is very stunted because the mom or the parent did everything, they're thinking for them. So I don't know how anyone who's in those situations, what you'd say.
Yes, of course. There's that enabling bit. There's the other side of it with the parenting. When we enable our children to, my son, let me do this for you, let me do this for you. Why are you doing all these things for your child? Yeah, you are eventually enabling them to be very codependent, because now that is when the codependence checks in. Yeah, they get into a marriage, they don't even understand where they are. And some of them get into marriage with a lot of bitterness, but they don't really know, like what people keep on saying, that men should not cry. Who said that? Who said that? That is the worst thing that we can ever tell our children. In fact, for us here at school, we tell them it is good to cry. If somebody has hurt you, please don't ask your children, your son, why are you crying? You're a man. You're not supposed to cry. No, let them cry, because apparently men, they don't seek help. They die with their own issues. And that is why now at some point they get into addictions, because they are looking at a place where they can just go and fill that void that is inside of them. And then when they go out there, they can either be addicted to women, they can either be addicted to alcohol, they can be addicted to cars, they can be addicted to, there's so many things that they can get addicted to. But the thing is, for us as parents, we need to be very, very careful on how we are handling our children. How are we dealing? Are we present? Are we there for them? Are we present for them emotionally? When they come and tell you, Mom, this is what I need, are you there for them? You know, to just listen to them. Because I was actually looking at the effects on parenting, and maybe I can just share a few with us. You know, when we become extremely strict and rigid, you know, those of your way is always right as a parent, or maybe a child has no say. So you can imagine for this young man here, he grew up in a very strict environment. And at some point, maybe he was being parentified, maybe he was the firstborn. So he's taken really care of everybody in their family. And we think it's a very nice thing to do. Yes, it is good, because maybe our parents are not able to, but you need to get at a point in your life and have a boundary and decide, enough is enough. Now I need to live my life. But when you become extremely strict as a parent and very rigid, now eventually our children on the other side, now they want to live their lives. Our boys, they just want to live in a very free way that they don't even realize when they're crossing the boundaries. Yeah. So there's also overreacting to situations and utter nasty words, building up on irrational belief. So when you're raising up our young people, you know, they do something small, there we go. Yeah, we utter nasty words to them. Wewe ni mjinga. But look at you, you're not thinking, you're not using your common sense. What are we telling them? They will grow up knowing, wait, I think I don't use my common sense. I'm a fool or something. And at times you'll even find a child giving you some negative words all the time. And you wonder, where is this coming from? But it's the words that we have been using on them. And that is what they're going to carry on into their marriage. And carrying into their marriage now, they're going to get in there and become they'll have some offender behaviors. You know, they'll want to hurt you because now they're the ones who are dominating. Yeah. So it's their time. It's payback time now. But unfortunately, they're pouring it out onto the wrong person. So you find that you are having lots of conflicts. You cannot tell your hubby anything, or maybe you, as a wife, you cannot be told anything. You are always there trying to justify yourself. You're trying to, prove yourself that you did not do it, and you're not doing it in the right way. The other one is like we've talked about it so many times, they're having no boundaries. Yeah, on parenting. For us parents, we want to sneak into our kids' bedrooms. You want to read their journals. You want to call up their friends and tell them, yeah, I understand you are here today. You say, Mom at home, I want to come and talk to her. You walk in there and you tell the parent, can you please tell your child not to be coming to my house anymore when I am not there? You're going into their bedrooms and checking their cupboards. Okay, fine. I know we have that thing inside of us, but let's do it with moderation. And again, let's learn how to trust our children, even as we're raising them. Yeah. The other thing is about being agitated when your children don't behave the way you expect them to behave. And that one is an effect in our marriages, because we get into marriage with a predetermined expectation. Now I'm getting married. Now this is what I'm expecting from this man. Oh my goodness. You get in there 2 years down the line, things are not working out. And you're wondering, what is this? I thought marriage is, you already had a script of your own of what you want to acquire. But you get in there, you realize it is not working. Why is that? Because of how you are raised. You are programmed in such a way that this is how you should behave. So you're expecting your husband to behave in the same way. When your spouse gets in, they remove their socks and throw the socks everywhere. And you're thinking there is a washing basket at that corner. That is a trigger right there. And if you're not careful, you can pour out words that are not very nice to them. So again, we have to be very careful on what we say to our children. Being emotionally distant or unavailable. That one I think today that's it. It's the 8th thing. Not approving and only show love to your child when they do something outstanding. Hey, my child, they have done this. You have performed very well today. That is now when you're hugging them. That is now when you're showing them the love. And all this time your child has been telling you, Mommy, there's a performance at school. All right, I will come. You're not even bothered to ask them, so what is it all about? And what role are you playing in that performance? Nothing. And even just cheering them on and telling them, I know you can do it. We're not doing that. But you wait until the D-Day. And then the child says, Mommy, I was telling you I was performing. That's it. Oh, yeah, you've been mentioning. There, your child has, they only get that message of you do not matter. So once again, let's pay attention to whatever your child tells you. They come home and tell you, teacher said, it's okay, just listen to them. Give them that benefit of doubt. Again, let us avoid raising children who have to, we really have to get a message from maybe the teacher or somebody else so that we can confirm it's the truth. We start building trust when they're still very, very young. Again, we need to be apologetic. Yeah, because if you have gone through the childhood trauma, by then you'll never say sorry. And that was me many years ago. How can I say sorry to a child? Yeah, we were brought up knowing that we are nothing. We have no voice. If anything, even if you do something wrong, you're supposed to be the one saying no. Can you say no? Can you say sorry? Sorry, can you say sorry to your brother? You're very fast to judge the child. So again, let us be very quick to be apologetic. If you're the one who is on the wrong side, imagine just accept and tell your child, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm the one who did this. And don't blame your children, and refuse to take responsibility for your mistake. Teach them that I can take responsibility, and that is the same way they are going to grow up doing. Again, refusing your children to express negative emotions. When you've just find a child crying. I remember one of my parents told me, I don't understand my daughter nowadays. Me, I don't know. She just sits down at times and, she's in that capuchin stage. So the child is just crying. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll just find out what they're going through and tell them it is okay to cry. Once they're done crying, you can do what? You can now talk about it. Yeah, give them their space. And then please don't forget to go back to it. Go back and just talk to them. Don't be that ignorant parent who, what's that now you? Just like crying with no reason, So let us be careful about that. And again, dismissive of child's problems. They can come to you and just tell you, this is what I am going through, and having some sort of conflict inside of you. You don't want to hear your child's problems because even you yourself, you have problems. Yeah. So deal with yourselves so that you can be able now to listen to your children's problems as well and be accommodated. Find a room in your heart, yeah, that you can accommodate the hearts of your child, what they are going through. You can express that love so that they can be able to experience that love and be able now to share that love with other people. So Wairimu, over to you. I think I've been able to capture a bit of it. Of course, there's a lot more, yeah, and we can continue with the conversation. Yeah.
I think if nothing else, you've given us a lot of food for thought. And I don't know about the rest of the mothers who are listening in, but there's a lot of guilt in a lot of the things you have mentioned. Now we'll keep checking ourselves and especially finding out, by the way, why did I do that? Must be something that I observed or thought is normal. There's a lady on Facebook who is saying there's an explanation you gave and she agrees with you because she once watched a documentary of somebody who murders, and he used to pluck off women's private parts because their mom did that to him. So to also know that, if we want our grandchildren to be raised then in a safe environment, it starts with us. It starts with us. So there's so much food for thought. You've been told, thank you, Fatma. You've taught me how to affirm my kids. That's very true. And we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So happy for making the time. We know you're in a school setup, so it's, we know everyone has had to adjust so that you can be here for us. But I'm so thankful. I hope if no one has been left without, feeling their questions or statements have been tackled. As you're concluding, because, I think the parenting bit is very clear. God didn't create marriage to fail. Marriage is a beautiful thing. And together, these two people, or the one parent, because we have a lot of single parents, we are stewards of our children's future. And we cannot blame the way we were raised or trauma that we went through, that's why we can't be good parents or we can't be good spouses. We need to see, Fatma's, she said she has the enlightenment journey. You have no reason why you're stuck. There's answers for you. Fatma, you'll come again, because I don't think we've exhausted this. There are those who will watch the replay and have more questions. So how can you be reached? If you want to say a little bit more about your programs, you can say that, but how can you be reached?
Well, maybe you can share my contact on the chat.
You can just mention, so that because of those who might be listening, because in the chat, unless you'll go back to Facebook and maybe write there, and then for the ones here, we can write for them in the chat. Is that okay?
All right. Yeah, that's okay. But something that came into my mind when you're talking about, the way we are raising our children right now, and I want us to just go and find out, check out the history of Hitler. We all know about Hitler, right? Let's just go back and find out the history of Hitler and how he ended up being who he became eventually, when he grew up. Because apparently he grew up in a very hostile environment. His family, the dad was a nasty person. And that is where he picked all what he did. And actually he came now and just did some absurd things to the people, So let us be very intentional of how we are raising our children, because again, it said, a fruit does not fall very far from the tree. Cindy? Yeah, so whoever we are our children are going to be a replicate of who we are. So we need to ask ourselves one question. What kind of a generation do we want to raise? Because if you're not careful, we are seeing people getting into alcohol. Imagine it is not their fault. At times I look at them and I'm thinking, I wish I could just have a word with them. There's like a place we pass with my hubby, and he tells me, boy, don't look at your people. He calls them my people. Because I just look at them and I'm like, I wish I can have a session or two with this. I just get to understand, why are they the way they are? Why are we having doctors? The people that we think they have made it. They have their masters, their PhDs. They're committing suicide. Why is that? Let's ask ourselves these questions, because apparently it has become very common that every other time in the news we hear prominent people, people who have done some good courses, who have some good jobs, who are doing very well in our society. They are committing suicide. Yeah, it's not a very nice thing. So let us be intentional about how we are raising our children. And I also do child therapy in case you find that maybe a child has gone through some issues and you don't know how to face them. I am here to help. I can walk with them through that journey, and I can be able to, just try to dig deep inside to understand what's going on in them. And at times, even when they are behaving badly, let's not be very quick to judge. Let us find out, where is this anger coming from? Where is this behavior of pushing others, of being a bully coming from? Because even the high schoolers right now who are burning down the schools, imagine it is not about them. It is about their childhood. There is something that is missing. And let us not be very quick to take our children to boarding schools, because at some point we try to just push them away, and then they go there. We don't know them. By the time they're coming back, they're strangers. Yeah. So I can go on and on about this. I'm very passionate about our next gen, and also the children that we are raising right now. So thank you so much for listening. And I don't know if there's something else I've left out.
Yeah, maybe just one thing, because like you said, we have children in schools, and part of who is injured is the teacher, and teachers today bring their injury to our children. So how can we, if we feel there's a teacher who is not handling himself or herself well, and so then we are having to redo all this parenting at home. What should parents do as a professional and a school director? What should we do as parents if we feel like our child is not being taken care of because a teacher came with anger from home or unchecked issues? What can we do? Maybe that's where we can conclude.
Well, thank you so much for that, Wairiwa, because actually that is it's an issue. it's an issue. At some point I had thought of even, just approach these colleges, that the teacher training colleges, and just tell them they really need to have a session on self-awareness. Yeah, even before now they take in their students for the training, because they're coming to deal with very innocent souls. And at times, instead of impacting them in a positive way, again, they end up creating wounds, yeah, in them. A child growing up knowing is just a different child altogether. So that's an issue. That one I truly agree. And I thank God, because like for my teachers, I really try to work with them. And when I see a teacher behaving in a manner to suggest something is not, I try to have a candid talk with them. I try to ask them, what is it that you're going through in your life? At times they'll tell you, no. But I do my best and try to dig deeper. And when I dig deeper, I get to understand, kumbe, there is something that this person has been experiencing. And that is what triggers them to behave the way they behave and treat the children in the way that they treat them. So it's so unfortunate, but maybe for my parents, they have access to me. They can come to me and tell me, Teacher Fatma, because I always tell my parents that in case you have an issue with a class teacher or any other teacher, please let me know immediately, so that I can also try and talk to them by the time I am getting back to. Don't come in and confront them, because the minute you confront them, now enmity checks in. Yeah, your child might end up being victimized, and we do not want that for any child, So just have a nice approach to it, get to understand why did that happen. Maybe the teacher can, explain to you, and maybe you can have a conversation with them, a very sober one, as much as they are your children, but it's good to have a sober conversation with the teacher who has done that. But of course, let the management know what has happened. Yeah.
Okay, good. There's a comment on Facebook as we end. Yeah, that self-awareness is important for teachers as well, not just the parents.
Yeah.
Part of who is helping us in this journey of raising this next generation is also the teachers. But I also always tell parents, between saying my child is in XYZ school just for feeling fancy, your child's life comes first. You'd rather take them to a small school that no one knows their name, but your child is safe, than to take them to a school where your child now develops all this trauma, because we are stressed. So when a child comes to report Teacher Nani, we don't listen to them. So they don't feel safe at school, they don't feel safe at home. And if there's no change that can be done, because all our dynamics are different, be the safe space for our children. But you can only do that if you yourself have healed and they feel safe. Yeah, isn't it, Fatma, approaching you? Yeah. Do you have a page? Maybe you'd like to give your page so that people can also be able to be listening and following your work.
All right. Yeah. Yes, my Facebook page is a Tranquil Hub. So I run an 8 weeks program for reclaiming your authentic self, because all these things that we have gone through, they come and just change the whole perspective of who we are, and God has told us very clearly that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. He has equipped us with so much. We are so rich, we can achieve anything that we want, and we can live a happy life. We can be joyful in all we do. We can reclaim the joy inside of us. So as I had mentioned earlier, I can take any one of you who is going through the childhood trauma. We can go through the process. We regress, experience the feelings, sensations of that time. We heal our pain and reclaim our joy, and it all begins with connecting with our core self, feeling that void. Because as I said earlier, there is a little child in each one of us. And that is why we want love, Everybody deserves to be loved. So a child is very vulnerable and they need love. So that little child in each one of us, they need to be loved. But they can only be loved if we pour out love. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Wairimo. It was nice to share the insights with you. And again, what I will encourage each one of us, be the cycle breaker in your family who disrupts the genetic imprints. Yeah. Start the healing in the family, recognize dysfunctional behavior in yourselves and change it, and take time to understand why people in your family are as they are. Imagine this is not from mass, no. It's just within us, but we need to be very, very intentional about the change, about the healing, so that we don't waste so much time. We have everything that it takes for us to prosper. We are very creative, but how can we have that creativity with all this negativity inside of us and all this emptiness and all this, bitterness inside of us? So let's just purpose to be free and live a happy life. Thank you.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. One of our friends who we are with in the mom boardroom reminds us that sometimes also a lot of emotional eating, because she's an health and wellness coach, stems from trauma as well. So these effects of childhood trauma shows up in all our life areas. And if you want to grow and thrive, you need to start sorting the core of who you are. So thank you so much. Thank you for the new friends who have joined us today live on Zoom and those who have watched on Facebook. I'm so grateful. I know I got cut off earlier, but you did not miss any word from Fatma, and we thank you for that. So again, like I was saying, my name is Wairimo, and I work with moms who want to prioritize their personal growth. And part of who helps you with your personal growth is the likes of Fatma. And the reason why it's important for you to grow is so that then you can be able to design and live the life that you desire. Because we have this dream life, those expectations. By the way, it is not impossible with God, but you need to tweak and deal with those things that are slowing you down or holding you back. And so I'm so grateful that you've joined us. Earlier, before I got cut off, I wanted to share with you a verse from Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, trust and rely confidently on the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. In all your ways, know and acknowledge and recognize him, and he will make your path straight and smooth, including removing obstacles that block your way. Childhood trauma is one of those obstacles that blocks your way, and trying to think, even if I went through childhood trauma, I'm okay. You're not okay. And you need to rely on God's path and his plan. Trust him. And part of how you trust is by working with people who he has trusted with this work. And so Fatma has presented herself. And even if you're not taking the 8-week call and say, this is what I'm going through, the things you are describing was like, does she know me? So don't keep quiet, even if it's for nothing else, but just have a conversation or scream at somebody who gets you. Please do that. Don't keep quiet. And so this, we said 2022 is going to be the it must happen year. So you want healing, it must happen this year. You want personal growth, it must happen. Joss reminds us, and I think that's a wonderful, wonderful way to conclude, that you cannot give from an empty cup. Moms, fill yourself. Fill yourself so that we can give. We are useless when we are empty. And sometimes our trauma has filled our cup, and that's all we spew. If God can make it happen, and he's given people a calling to help you. We are God's hands and legs, mouth extended. We are here presenting ourselves. If you want help in your personal growth, come to me. You want growth to heal that inner child. Because you could be 30 and celebrating your birthday and showing us the nice balloons and everything, beautiful pictures, but maybe you're 10. That girl, that 10-year-old needs your attention, all right, so that you're whole. So thank you, Fatma. Thank you so much. I know this conversation, we will do it again, but I'm so grateful. Let's conclude with just a quick word of prayer, and then we can release each other. Thank you so much, Lord, because you are good and you are great. Thank you for Fatma, for her calling. You have allowed her, through the pain in her story, to turn it around into a message of hope for other people. Thank you that she has withstood the test of time, that all the tears, all the pain she has gone through is not being wasted. Thank you for allowing her to go back to school and learn about childhood therapy, go through her own healing journey so that she can help other women and other men who may be stuck. Thank you for the support she has from her spouse, and that her children are examples, that a healed mother then raises strong children with emotional strength. So God, as we depart, bless our marriages, bless our parenting, those who are single and those who are in two family parent situations. Father, teach us and open our eyes so that we may trust fully in all your ways, acknowledge you in the places of hurt, in the places of success. Help us to trust your path and plan for our life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
So thank you so much for joining us live on Facebook, and I hope that you will give comments for Fatma. All those who are going to watch the replay, you have questions, she'll be answering them on the go. So thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Bless you too, Irimo. It was